Welcome to another episode of our Unicorn Leader Interviews series here on the C-Suite podcast. My name is Russell Goldsmith, and together with Debbie West, we are thrilled to be joined online from New York by David Obrand, the CEO of Salesloft, the AI-powered revenue orchestration platform. Founded in 2011 by Cole Porter and David Cummings, the company achieved unicorn status early in 2021, and then when Vista Equity Partners came on board as well, it raised the valuation of the business to $2.3 billion. So, David, welcome to the show. Should we start by you giving us a little bit more background to Salesloft?
Sure. Thanks, Russ. Nice to see you, Debbie. Appreciate the invite to be on today. And I think you teed it up perfectly, Russ, with the AI-powered revenue orchestration platform. But the way we think about this business and the way we think about the platform is we have built an AI-powered platform that guides sellers and beyond sellers, customer-facing teams with the insights they need to take the right actions consistently through the entire customer journey. So we really think about the problem set as being through the lens of both the buyer and the seller, all the way from that first touch, all the way through renewal. And that's what we've built on a global basis for our 6,000 plus customers around the world.
Yeah, it's perfect. And like many of the unicorn leaders we've interviewed on this series previously, you aren't actually the founder of the company, David, are you? So tell us, how did you come to be at Salesloft?
It's a wonderful question. And I am not the founder. As Russ said earlier, this company was founded by Kyle Porter, David Cummings, and Kyle ran this business up until and through the Vista recap. And it was in the fall of 2022. I was in New York and got a call from Kyle and the CRO of the company at the time, Steve Goldberg. They happened to be in New York. And they invited me out for a drink in the evening to just catch up. Kyle and I had known each other for several years. I had actually been the reference for the CRO that had come in about 3 years prior. And we sat down, we started just getting caught up on life and family and work and all of that. And I had asked Kyle how it was going with Vista, and he said it was fantastic. But what he realized was two things, one of which was every day the company was reaching a new plateau beyond anything he had ever managed before. The second of which was he had made a commitment to his wife 12 years earlier that if he had 10 years to go build a company, he would then step aside and give her 10 years to build her company. And he was 12 years into a 10-year commitment and decided that it was time to find a successor. And based on how we have a shared vision and set of values and how we think about building companies and serving customers, we were really aligned from the very beginning. It was definitely not my intention going into that drink to come out of it with such an interest. I didn't even know this was going to be the topic of conversation, but about 4 months later, after numerous conversations, really deep conversations around how we view innovation in the space, how we think about the ethos a company needs to have to really excel and build something meaningful and sustainable. And through those conversations and many with Vista and the rest of the leadership team, it seemed like a very easy decision at the end of the day. I also happened to have been a Salesloft customer, so I had direct experience with the product itself, which was also quite insightful and helpful as I made my decision.
Yeah, I bet that was key to the decision, and it sounds like you got a lot more than you bargained for out of that drink. So coming into the business after its 10 years plus running, must have brought some different challenges for you as a CEO. Could you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, it's really interesting. A couple of things. This company has such a rich culture. I think it would have been very difficult if the change was not initiated by the founder himself. So Kyle was really the one that initiated this change rather than the investors. And I think that's a really important point. When you have a company that has such a rich culture as Salesloft does, that would be a very, I think, risky and tumultuous move to make. What made it much easier, and I'm so grateful to Kyle Porter for this, not only did we have a deep shared vision around what he was building and what I wanted to build, those were deeply aligned, those two perspectives. But we also talked deeply around not just the values of an organization, but the ethos of an organization, which is really how those values show up every day in how we behave and interact with each other. And given that we had really deep alignment around those areas, it made it easier. But ultimately, the way that Kyle was able to welcome me into the business, I think allayed a lot of fears around change for the employee base. And, it was a move that we made in early February of 2023. I still have weekly calls with Kyle, where, we stay deeply connected to the business together, and he is still on the board. So we have gone from, me being his successor to now, in part me, him being my boss as part of the board, and we all sit on the board together, which is wonderful.
That's great. David, we're going to jump around on topics over the course of the next kind of 20 minutes or so. One of the things that we're keen to understand is, we talked I mentioned at the top of the intro about, various, when you kind of became a unicorn, and then as you mentioned, Vista came on board. What would be great to understand is, and I don't know if you're okay to share this with us, but just how much money has been raised in the various kind of series, the rounds of funding. And then what would be great to understand is where that money then has been invested, to date, and what the plans are moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said earlier, the company had raised a round in early 2021, but the real impactful inflection point for this business was when Vista came into the business in the winter of 2021. And Vista ended up acquiring the business, or recapping the business, at a valuation, as you said, of $2.3 billion. And that set the company on a trajectory where we remain today. And we are really focused around three primary areas of investment, allocation of that capital, one of which is in the pace and quality of innovation. This space is moving very quickly. We're seeing a lot of organic innovation. We're seeing a lot of inorganic through acquisition. But how we serve our customers and the needs of our customers, especially now that we have moved into the enterprise, we have customers that have deployed to users in over 30 countries around the world. The innovation required when you are serving the largest companies in the world is a very different sort of perspective and mindset than when you're building, for a smaller set of commercial customers, for example. So that's the first piece. The second piece of equal importance is customer success. So workflow platforms and enterprise workflow platforms that span everything from pipeline to renewal is a new muscle in organizations. Historically, we have had wonderful systems of records like CRM, but we have not had systems of engagement for go-to-market teams. And so that requires the vendors to invest considerably in how you handhold your customers through this change if you want to help them maximize their outcomes. And so we invest significantly in innovation. We invest significantly in customer success. And then the third area that we invest in is in the ecosystem. And the ecosystem is there to support both of those first two initiatives. So while we will innovate as fast as we can organically and through acquisition, there will always be desires to expand this platform at a speed that, exceeds what our ability is to do as a single company. This is where the greatest companies in the world leverage their ecosystem to build around that white space. It creates a tremendous opportunity for these companies to drive revenue streams around it from an innovation perspective, but also we look at our ecosystem to help around that customer success side, guiding our largest customers around the world through the change management and the business process re-engineering that they're afforded to do now when they have a platform like this. So innovation, customer success, and ecosystem is the primary allocation of capital for us.
Are there plans for further funding rounds at all, or not at the moment?
No, it's not necessary for us given our financial position. So we're very fortunate. One of the wonderful things that Kyle Porter did as he ran this business is he never sort of took the bait at growth at all costs. So while this company has consistently grown throughout, it's sort of life. He's done it in a very responsible and mature way. And as Vista came in at the end of 2021, they doubled down on that as well. So while this is a huge growth investment for Vista, we are driving growth in a way that ensures profitability as well. And that allows us both the optionality to control our own destiny and does not require us to have to raise additional capital.
Yeah, that's excellent. And so what's the structure of the business now?
So we have about 1,000 employees, and our company is headquartered in Atlanta. We have offices in the U.S. We have offices in Guadalajara. We have our EMEA headquarters in London. We have offices in Poland as well. And our employees are spread around the world. So we have adopted a hybrid model here, as many companies. We grew considerably throughout the pandemic. And we now focus, rather than on bringing everybody back into a central location, we focus on ensuring that wherever our employees are, we give them the tools and the processes to do the best work of their career. And some of those want to be in an office, and we afford that. Some want to be hybrid, and some want to be fully remote. And we want to accommodate all three of those structures with the tools and the resources our employees need to do great work and serve our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just mentioned growth, David, and I know in February you announced the acquisition of Drift, which is a buyer experience and conversational AI company. Can you talk us through a little bit of the decision-making process on that deal and what that deal has meant for Salesloft?
Yeah, absolutely. We are very excited about that acquisition. And, when we think about our vision, Debbie, it is to fundamentally transform the profession of sales. That's been the vision of this company since its inception. But as we have expanded the platform with the release of Rhythm last year, which was the first full AI-powered revenue orchestration platform in the market that serves customers on a global basis, as we delivered that to market, we realized that you can't transform the profession of sales without also addressing the buyer side of the equation in a real way. When you think about sales, it is a social contract between two parties, and only serving the needs of one party doesn't actually allow you to transform the entire process itself. Now, Drift has been an award-winning company. It has won the Forrester Wave. It just recently won the Forrester Wave again a few weeks ago. It won the previous Forrester Wave in their space. It is regarded in the industry as the best technology in that space. And for us, Drift has been a really valuable partner for several years on the technology side. Came from the ecosystem. So just like we talked about, the ecosystem serves innovation. It served that innovation as a partner for quite a while, and now it actually serves that innovation natively through acquisition. And what Drift allows us to do is, when you look at the market today, what analysts will tell you is that buyers are doing more than 60% of their due diligence before they ever even engage with a seller. So think about that for a minute. Buyers are getting over half the way through their buying process from an education perspective before they even talk to any seller. That is so different than it has ever been. And if you are not aware as a go-to-market facing team that those buyer signals are being generated, then you're always going to end up being late to the party. And so for us, we felt we had a deep obligation to our customers to be able to bring those signals in natively into the platform. The way we think about revenue orchestration platforms is there are signals that come in, and those signals actually create insights. And through those insights, we can actually generate actions that we know have a direct connection to measurable outcomes. And that's really important. If you don't have those signals natively coming in, then you are fully dependent on third parties. And there's a wonderful catalog of companies that are generating intent data. And we integrate with almost all of them. And we want to make sure that whatever third-party intent vendors our customers have already procured, it integrates into our platform. But we don't want it to be dependent on that. We want to ensure that we have that natively. And that's where Drift came in. So now we have the ability to expand our vision, not only to transform the profession of sales, but to actually transform this for both buyers and sellers, So together they can drive and experience repeatable outcomes.
Yeah, that's excellent. And what approach have you taken to sort of establishing a company culture, and what impact did that acquisition of Drift have on that culture?
So Drift has a very similar culture in terms of its maniacal focus on customer centricity, which we share with them as well. That made it very easy. We actually had a lot of similar values as well. But what we did, as soon as we completed the acquisition, we brought the combined leadership team together. And we said, look, this is a really opportune time for us to reassess what our values are. The Salesloft values were established when it was a sub $50 million business. And so now when you bring these two businesses together, we are one of the, if not the largest provider in our space. It affords us a moment to think about where we want to take this company in the next few years and what are the right values to have today to carry us through that next phase of the journey. But as we talked about earlier, we really didn't stop at the values. We really said, look, how do we want to show up every day? How do we want to show up to each other? How do we want to show up to our prospects, to our customers, and to our partners? And we have a structure in the organization where we have ELT, which are the direct reports into the CEO's office. And then we have SLT, which are all of the leaders that report directly into the ELT leaders. So we actually task SLT to do an analysis, talk amongst themselves, and come back to ELT with recommendations. We don't believe this should be a top-down exercise. We believe it should be a bottom-up exercise. And we have an incredibly strong SLT here. And so they work seamlessly with all of the direct reports under them, as well as with ELT that they report to. And they came back to us with a set of recommendations. We then evolved those, brought them back to SLT, codified them, and then rolled them out to the combined organization within about 45 days of when we announced the acquisition.
Wow, that's really impressive. That sounds like a great way to connect everybody. And while we're sort of talking about that communications approach, what approach do you take to internal communications and keeping all of your employees engaged in the business and sort of active in those values? How involved are you in that, David?
I'm quite involved. We are moving very quickly, as many companies are during this time. And it's much more difficult when you don't have everybody in an office together. We just conducted a revenue kickoff where we brought 350 employees together back in February. And for some employees, they had never met their team members because they had all been remote. So it's really important in a hybrid environment that we are hyper communicative. So we do a monthly newsletter that goes out to all employees. We do a monthly all hands. And then we have, within my leadership team, we actually do stand-ups every single day together. And then we spend several hours once a week in a deep dive operating review across all of ELT. But, we find that the monthly all hands are critical to driving that connective tissue and ensuring the alignment. The other thing that we do that is tangential to that, but equally important, is we believe that you have to have a charter for the business, and that charter has to start at the top and then cascade to every single employee in the company. So everybody feels connected and ensures that the work they're doing on a daily basis ladders up to the most important priorities of the company. And so we are in the process of rolling that out right now. We rolled out the vision and the values and the charter for the business, and now all of that is cascading down throughout the organization. So that, combined with all hands and newsletters, very active Slack channels, I think we do a pretty good job of staying deeply connected.
David, we've been trying to get you guys on the show for quite some time. I'm obviously delighted that we finally got there. But I just wanted to ask you, in terms of this actual series of Unicorn Leader interviews, our first Unicorn interview, or first interview that we did with a Unicorn Leader was in December 2019. So obviously the market's changed quite a bit since then. But one thing now we're doing this kind of new season of interviews, one thing I'm keen to get your thoughts on is whether or not the term unicorn is still as relevant now as it was then. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. And I think I think it's dangerous to celebrate valuations and funding rounds because it sets expectations. And as we have seen in the last few years, as the market shifts, what felt really good in a moment, all of a sudden now feels a little bit, like an anchor around you. And so I'm not sure it is the most important or even an important milestone to celebrate. I think what is important to celebrate is, what you see in terms of customer growth, customer retention, expansion. And I do believe that it is validating when the investor community doubles down, on your company, especially those that have been with you a long time, continuing their pro rata and super pro rata and all of that. But, Russ, we've seen, used to be, look back when, early 2000s, companies could go public at 100 million in revenue. Now it's anywhere from probably 300 million to $1 billion in revenue to actually go public and do well in the public market. So necessarily, celebrating what a small set of investors values your company at might not be the best North Star these days.
We may have to start thinking about rebranding this series at some point.
No, that was not my intention, by the way.
No, I know exactly what you think, where you're coming from on that. Just changing topic again. I want to come back to this. Obviously, the key part of the platform, which is AI driven, and obviously when you go on your website, the first thing you see is it says meet the first AI powered revenue orchestration platform. AI is a topic. It doesn't really matter what kind of topic area we're talking about on the C-Suite podcast, because obviously we cover a number of different areas within business. AI comes up in pretty much every episode now. I was just wondering how difficult it is, or how much of a challenge is it to keep up with the pace of innovation within this space, because it's so rapidly changing, from day to day at the moment. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, you're spot on. So we think about it in a couple of different ways. AI does need to be pervasive, not just in your product, but actually in your organization and how you think about it and how you leverage AI. So first and foremost, we've had AI in the platform for over 4 years. So, as we saw the acceleration of AI in the last 18 months and, both the acceleration and the accessibility of it, we already had a very strong muscle around this. Our R&D leader, Ellie Fields, and our head of product, Frank, and head of engineering, Saurabh, have been focused on this for quite some time and have architected this platform in a way that not only can we take advantage of our native AI, Conductor AI, but we can actually take advantage of the best off-the-shelf, purpose-built AI as well. So whether that is OpenAI, through Microsoft Azure, whether that's through IBM and watsonx, that we are integrating into SKUs of our product as well. I think it's really important in a couple of areas. One of which is if you're serving the enterprise, which we do, well over 50% of our revenue is generated from the enterprise. Large enterprise organizations typically have made big bets in their platforms. They might be IBM shops, they might be Google shops, they might be Microsoft shops, but they are reluctant to use technologies beyond those in their core stack. So if we are selling into a very large enterprise that is a deep IBM shop, they're going to want to leverage their investment in IBM, inclusive of watsonx. We need to have an answer for that. The answer cannot be forcing our buyers to move somewhere else. We need to meet our buyers where they are. It's very, very important in this space. And so we've developed an architecture on the platform that allows us to plug and play these different AI platforms. And look, it's still very early in the evolution of these AI technologies. So I do believe it's incumbent on vendors to be building their own AI to solve certain use cases, but also to have an architecture that allows them to plug and play different AIs as we see this space evolve over time.
Yeah. You mentioned IBM watsonx there. Tell us a little bit more about that, because that's a deal you did earlier this year, isn't it?
We did. So IBM has been a customer of ours since 2018. They started in a small subset of their sales team in digital sales. Then in 2021, they expanded that use throughout all of digital sales. And then based on the success that they saw with that, they then expanded and are in the process now rolling it out to over 40,000 users around the world in over 30 countries. Now, as part of that, it gave us an opportunity to learn a lot more around how IBM is thinking about and investing and developing Watson and Watson X. And what we realized was this is a real opportunity for us to expand our offering into that IBM global customer base. And so we welcome the opportunity to do a partnership with them, bring our technologies together. We will distribute this globally, but the entire IBM sales team will also not only be users of this, but will be trained on how to actually speak to their customers about it as a way to highlight the power that comes with Watson X.
That's great. David, we've been chatting for about 25, 26 minutes or so. Just want to finish off with final question for you in terms of what's next for Salesloft. Can you share the plans for the next 12 to 18 months maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are continuing to expand our operations globally. We just opened our European headquarters in London. So we have about 125 folks in London and growing considerably. So we welcomed them with a new office that was richly deserved after spending many years in WeWorks throughout Europe. We are also accelerating our plans in Poland as well. So as we continue to sign up more and more global enterprise customers, it's incumbent upon us to be where our customers are, whether that's offering 24/7 support, whether that's offering resources in their native languages. And so you'll see us expand in Poland, both as a center of excellence for development as well as support and services as well. We'll continue to expand in our Guadalajara location, and we're going to continue to expand in the U.S. One of the wonderful things about Drift is it brings us a fantastic office in Boston. So we're going to continue to make investments in the Northeast region as well. And as we talked about earlier, Russ, innovation and customer success in the ecosystem, are the top three priorities from an investment perspective. We have a very exciting summer release coming out, and then we are launching the next generation of the platform with Arc in the fall of this year as well. So right now, we'll continue to drive the acquisition integration with Drift, which is going incredibly well. We were very fortunate to be able to bring an incredible team on the Drift side into the Salesloft family. So we'll continue to do that. I do not think we are finished with acquisitions. So I suspect we'll continue to see more of that as we see consolidation in the space. But for us right now, it's building the best platform in the space and providing our customers with all of the resources they need to maximize the value and the outcomes from that investment.
Well, listen, that sounds great. It's certainly going to be keeping you busy for the foreseeable future. But for now, David Obrand, thank you so much for taking the time to join us to record this today.
Russ, Debbie, thank you so much. I know we had grand plans to do this together live in London, but due to unforeseen travel delays, it wasn't possible. But I do very much look forward to getting together with you, and maybe we can do another one of these together in person at some point in London.
100%. We're going to hold you to that. We look forward to that. We would love to hear your comments on today's chat. You can do that by sharing them on any of our social media feeds. They're all linked from the top of our website at csuitepodcast.com, where you'll also find all our previous shows and supporting show notes, plus links to where you can follow us on the likes of Spotify and Apple. And if you'd like what you've heard, please do give us a positive rating and review. If you are a unicorn leader yourself and you'd like to be part of this series, please do get in touch via the contact form on the website at csuitepodcast.com. Plus, of course, anyone can get in touch with any feedback you may have. And finally, you can find both me, Russell Goldsmith, and Debbie West on LinkedIn. But for now, thanks for listening and goodbye.